can stop it now. You can prevent. That motor is going to wear out if you overdo it. So the rest of your body is the same way. Take care of it. Restore it. It will give you a lifetime of function and enjoyment.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to distinguish what that original term of Wu Wei, which is not non-action, which I think a lot of people might take, but it's just putting in the right force. It's kind of like a dance, I guess, or I think about judo. I have some friends that were pretty much Olympic level judo people, and they always describe, ultimately, you're trying to use the force of someone else to put them down on the ground. And it's like if you push too much, it's the nature just trying to pull you down to the ground, saying that you push too much, you're out of balance.
Yeah.
And you want to be in balance.
The word here is leverage.
Leverage.
Yeah. So leverage, right? So the pulley system is the leverage. Try to find the leverage in which then you use very little of your own energy and you can accomplish greatly. And sometimes that leverage is, finding a group of people who really subscribe to your vision, right? So you don't have to do it all. It's like we think we have to do it all. And, I have a company, I have several companies, I have staff, I have lots of staff. And instead of really trusting and empowering them, I try to do too much myself. But yet when I start to practice Wu Wei and I realize I can leverage all their strength to do the bidding for me, as opposed to me just wearing myself out. And they're much more effective than me. So this is really something that I've come to learn practically much later in life, which I wish I had learned that in my 20s. So I would have a whole lot more energy.
A lot more chi.
A lot more chi. So,
yeah. No, I can definitely relate to that from a business perspective for sure. But also, I feel in general, a lot of the things that we want, oftentimes when I feel I've let it go, whether it's like if you try to chase a person for a relationship, let's say, or really anyone, people feel that energy. And when you start to let go, it all of a sudden pulls them back. Same thing with money, same thing with a lot of the goals that we have. It's just like when you try to focus too much on it for too long of a period of time, it runs away from you. And then when you let go a little bit, it comes back. I don't know if there's a principle around Taoism that can explain that frequency of energy. People call law of attraction.
It is a yin-yang attraction, if you think about it, right? Sometimes it's counterintuitive what you should do. I just thought of an example of my dog, right? So when I first got the dog, the cutest dog, right? But it's like I'm approaching him with his collar and he runs away. And I'm trying to chase him and I can't catch him. He's too fast for me, right? And at some point I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm upset, and I think about it and I go, oh, duh, why didn't I think of this? I pulled a treat out of my bag and I'm holding it in my hand. And he comes right up to me. No chase, no need, right? It's really when you kind of stop, right? Then you are able to draw, whether it's things or people or action towards you, right? So it's one of those things we tend to think we have to go after. But if you sit, instead of pushing, you pull. You figure out what you can do in order to pull, right? So that is the yin-yang sort of, laws of yin and yang, the attraction, right? It's to be able to find that, and that would be leverage for me from over my dog is he's very tree-oriented. And so I got the leverage over him with this tree. And so with this tree, he'll do anything I ask him to do. Right? And so same thing, I think in life, we have kids, we have, spouse partners, we have business, people that we work with, figure out what the rewards that people really want, right? And then you basically sit down with them and say, okay, you know what? If we achieve this objective, then you get this, the carrot versus the stick. I think people generally respond better to the carrot.
Right, because the chasing would be using some sort of a fear-based approach and saying, hey, come on, let's get to it. But
that's the stick.
That's the stick.
That's the stick. Yeah.
Right. I think Charlie Munger talks about how the older he gets, the more he's realized he's underestimated incentives. Right, just so powerful in everything in life. I want to go through some of these Chinese medicine practices. Hopefully they'll be actionable for some people around this. We talked about Sarah Jane also before this. Hot water. This is something I've grown up with my whole life, but it's certainly not more ingrained into the culture here. People love ice espressos and icy drinks. Why is hot water so important, and why is keeping the body warm, especially the abdomen and the feet, so important in traditional Chinese medicine?
I think if you think of it from the perspective of body temperature is 98.6. What is a glass of cold water, right? Ice water is probably in the 30s or 40s. There's a temperature differential of over 50 degrees. And that's a shock to the body. Everything that comes into your body has to be warmed up. Like, for example, during winter, the air you breathe in, you went to school in Montreal, so you remember how cold it was in Montreal, right? In the wintertime. So it's very cold. So that air comes in, and so in the process of reaching your nostril, going down, into your bronchioles, into your lungs, and by the time it hits your lungs, it's already warmed up. Your body is heating this air. The consequence of not heating it up is pretty dire, because it will basically, that cold air can reduce the blood flow into your sinuses as well as your bronchioles in your lungs, and it could damage your lungs in the process. So this is why the water is the same concept. You put that water into your stomach, and your stomach is 98.6 degrees, and it's dealing with a 40, 30, and then if you're eating icy stuff that are frozen, 20s. The differential is so big that your body is just trying to warm everything up. And it can't do it rapidly in time, oftentimes. So what happens, you decrease the amount of circulation in the microcapillaries of your stomach. And so now you've got an issue, because those blood flow is important for the stomach to work properly. And so now that could affect your valve, the pyloric valve that sits between the stomach and the esophagus. That can malfunction. If that malfunctions, it doesn't close all the way. First symptom, reflux. You have acid reflux, right? So that's one problem. Two, you have gastric juice that's produced by stomach. Well, if your circulation is decreased, then you're not going to secrete the amount of acid and gastric juice that you need to break down the food. That's the beginning of essentially your digestive problem, right? Because the food is not being digested properly. And if it doesn't get digested properly, then it doesn't get assimilated. So your absorption is poor. And possibly you could attract and cause more fermentation of bacteria. So that means more bloating, more gas. That's why then burping and belching and then disturbance in your gut. So that's number one. So try to match your body's body temperature. Do you know what 98.6 degree water feels like? Mm-hmm. That's hot. It's not just lukewarm, but it's like between lukewarm and hot. Not hot to the point of scalding your tongue, right? I'm not talking about that kind of hot. But you could feel it. When the water is the right temperature, it feels good. When it's too cold, then it really affects your stomach. Everything just contracts. That's number one. Number two, keeping your stomach and your feet warm is, in Asia, we grew up with this concept, and, a lot of people think, it's old wives' tale. There's no basis in it. Well, the fact of the matter is that your trunk here has some pretty critical organ systems, right? You have your stomach, spleen, pancreas, liver, kidneys, and your uterus and ovaries for women, and bladder. And in men, we have your testes and prostate and all. This abdominal pelvic area is really super, super critical. If it's cold, let's say outside temperature is cold, and you see some women or men, but they leave their midriff open, right, bare. This area is not warm. It's not kept warm, so it remains cool. And again, that same concept. When it's cold, it will basically reduce circulatory, flow of qi and blood as well as other critical nutrients. And it can affect potentially your transit time, your bowel transit time, the peristalsis. And so that's really important.